Hey everyone, Christian here from CK Wraps. I'm going to show you how to lay the door on this Mitsubishi Eclipse with Vivid Satin Blue Chrome. Stunning material. We've already cut the piece out to size, actually over size. Make sure you cut more than what you need because we don't want to put our hands on the back of the vinyl after we remove the backing. So we're going to make sure that we're grabbing from the edges instead. This is a very delicate film. Requires a bit more attention when it comes to installing. I recommend it for the beginner, but I mean, go ahead and try it if you'd like. This is more of a way to handle chrome as opposed to installing the door. I mean, the same basic principles apply pretty much when you're installing the door panel on most cars. This door panel is not quite flat. I mean, it is fairly flat, but it does have a recess in the bottom here. So I'm gonna show you how we lay into that recess because we can't stretch this film into that recess. We can't bridge that gap. We need to actually lay the film in and then contour it out. So we'll go from there. I've got the magnets ready. Everything's been prepped already. Isopropyl alcohol has been used to wipe down the entire panel. Also blown it off with a compressor, making sure that there's no debris in the windowsills, around any other cracks that will draw in when we remove the backing. It creates a lot of static, so we want to make sure that we're not drawing in any particles that are in the surrounding area. Alright. So we're going to start at one end. This is the way I like to do it, at least. You can do it any way you like. What we do is keep the backing paper as uniform as possible so that we're rolling it and not creasing the film as we remove the backing. You don't want to crease this film. It will permanently mark it. This is not a standard film where you can just remove blemishes and creases by heating it. It'll actually damage it even further. So we have to make sure that we're not creasing the film at all. Now, as you can see, I put the magnet back down over here just for security. And I'll continue to roll the backing paper off. Touch the word, I said roll, so we want to roll it off. We don't want to create any marks in the vinyl, so rolling it is very important. Perfect. So what I like to do is glass this, of course, because that's what we should be doing with all vinyl. As soon as we glass it, it'll make it a little bit easier to work with. We need to basically contour the film around the door slightly so that it makes this recessed area in the bottom here a little bit easier to work with. Now this film, we can only pull so much. It's a very hard film to contour, so we're going to do our best to at least get, maybe 3 or 4%, 5% contour. This plastic down here, so I can't even actually put a magnet there, but I'll put a extra one right there. I'll actually stick this down right here so that I can pull evenly across the door. So when repositioning this film, you need to be very quick. Don't pull it slowly and have it like ripple upwards. You want to make sure you yank the film right off and reposition it back into the spot where you want it to go. You can do this pretty much however many times as you like. The thing is with this film is if you do pull it slowly, you will put marks in it, lines that'll be permanent blemishes, and you won't see them too much until the sunlight hits it. These are what I call repositioning marks, and it's a characteristic of this film in particular. Some other chromes are slightly easier to install, but you don't get this kind of finish on those chromes. So different level, a little more advanced, well worth it in the end if you know what you're doing. But I'm going to try and help you guys out and show you what we're doing here. So let's reposition this and glass it. So the bottom came off, not a big deal. I'm trying to keep this as even as possible all the way across. Okay. Let's get another magnet. Let's see what the door is here. Go back to the other side here. Same idea. Actually stick one more just in case, maybe even two more. You don't want it coming off. This is exactly how you should be repositioning this film. Okay. So what I'm going to start to do is, because this door doesn't have a hard edge to the bottom, normally I would start on the hard edge to the top or in the middle or wherever it might be. This one has no hard edge throughout the entire door. It's fairly round until you get to the bottom. So we're just going to kind of start, work one way and then the other. You should know how to squeegee already if you're at this point and installing this film. You can actually even use a bit of Vivid Shield Guard. I love this stuff. Just helps the vinyl, the squeegee slide a little bit better on the vinyl. It is quite warm in here, so the buffer can actually get hung up when the material becomes a little bit more elastic with the heat. We don't want that. We don't want the buffer to drag, so we want to make sure that it slides really nicely across the entire panel. I use monkey strips on my 3M blue squeegee. I know they're not wet application strips, but I use it all the time for wet application, and they work just fine. So they do have other strips called banana strips or something like that, and they're wet application strips. Like I said, I've never had an issue with using these purple or blue or whatever color monkey strips you decide to get with a little bit of fluid. Vivid Shield Guard will actually maintain the finish on this film. It'll keep a lot of buffer marks away. You should always make sure the environment, as far as the surface area goes, is always dust free, so that we don't run into any scratches and stuff like that. Just gonna get this up about here. I've got a relief cut over here. Hopefully you guys can see from all the way over there. That'll just allow me to tuck very gently into the windowsill. Perfect. Get rid of these. Don't leave the magnets on the vinyl too long. It'll leave marks in it, so I want to make sure that we're preserving the finish on the film, of course. I'm just going to come down a little bit more here, and then I'm going to alleviate the tension that's in this area here. I just want to make sure everything's symmetrical as far as my lines go, and we won't pull too hard. Perfect. So by the time I reposition this right now, this should be very straight. Now if we didn't contour the film around the door this way and a little bit this way and kind of have the vinyl hug the door a bit in this area, we would actually start to get bunched up here a lot with a lot of wrinkles. That would be the same with any film. So you kind of want to get the film to wrap around the panel, and then that's more so glassing it, and then it'll kind of, well not, it will alleviate tension in these areas here, and we can just pretty much hold the vinyl up. And squeegee it right into the gap without any worry of overstretching the film by bridging it into an area like that. No heat gun also on top of that. This is a very thick film. This is probably 4 or 5 times thicker than a standard Avery SW900 film. Gloss black, white, whatever. It's actually thicker than almost any Avery film, including chrome. So it's pretty much like using cardboard. We want to keep our line as straight as possible. We don't want to stretch in one area and not the other. We want to keep everything uniform all the way down, so that things don't start to get wrinkled up. Just keep an eye on how I'm repositioning the film. This is the key when it comes to installing this film. Vivid also makes a product called Tack Reducer. It's great for repositioning the film, because if you use your tack reducer within like 3 or 4 inches of every edge, basically on the majority of the largest flat surface area, the vinyl doesn't grab on as much, so it allows for repositioning a lot more easily. I lift the film a little bit to sometimes get the wrinkles out to the edges. It helps, as opposed to leaving it flat like this. You can bring it up like this and the wrinkles will all of a sudden come out magically. And that's how it works. So if you're new at this, it's kind of a tip. And hopefully you guys can hear me, because I've heard a lot of people say that they can't hear me on the camera. Just remember, this is chrome. You gotta be very, very, very fucking gentle with this. And that's how we do the door. Didn't take very long. The trimming process is pretty straightforward and very easy. I can go through it now with you, but the door is done. We're just going to trim it off and clean it up, and that'll be it. But in case you need to know how to do the door still, I'll finish the video up and you can tag along. So when we're trimming, what I like to do is, especially around the door to fender edge, I like to trim on the opposite side of the door. It'll give you about sometimes 1/8 of an inch, sometimes 1/4 of an inch, anywhere around there, of extra film to wrap around the edge. Reason why we want a little bit more around this side is because people put their hands here all the time. They grab the door, they're going to end up pulling the vinyl off. We trim right to the edge. Bottom of the door, I trim very, very, very close. Reason being is that nobody really ever grabs the bottom of the door, and it'll always be tucked under just slightly enough so that there is no color showing. I've never had any film pull back from the bottom edge. There's no stretch under here, so there's no reason for the film to ever pull back unless you didn't clean the surface area properly. So that's one thing we don't really ever have to worry about, and it creates a nice clean cut. So I kind of just, I'll gradually bring it in, starting somewhere around here, and then run the blade right to the edge of the door across the rest of the panel. What we can do is put the glove on and make sure we have a nice even line all the way here by using a little bit of heat. Don't use too much heat. We can burn the film very easily if we use too much heat. We're going to actually have to stretch it into here. So you want to take a bit of the stretch from this area here, this area over here, and bend and bring it in. I'm just rolling around the edges with my thumb very slightly, setting ourselves up for the cutting and the trimming. And once all said and done, once we trim and cut everything, we're going to post heat again. This is kind of a preheat, then we have a post heat. But we didn't use any heat to contour this film around this door, only for the edges. Run the back of your blade on the edge. I'm running this on the top of the window trim piece. Actually, this piece is going to be covered by the window trim completely. I'm just wrapping the entire piece because it's a little bit more thorough. So same thing when it comes to the front fender to door. It's a little bit more difficult to push this film and wrap it around. We've got to take our time with the squeegee and kind of manipulate it in there. Always got to make sure that the inside of there is very clean, because that's the hardest place to clean by far. There are special tools that you can get and use to reach in there and curve the material around, but I just use a regular squeegee and go to town. So, but there are tools out there that will make your life easier. Always the back of the blade on the edge of the door. We're never cutting into the paint. And we're also doing this in one clean line until we get to about here. I'm going to start bringing it out a bit and coming up closer to the fender side of the door right now. Precision is important. Getting good at your cutting skills is very important. Especially if you're working on other people's cars. Working on your own, I mean, if you can take the hit and scratch your paint, go for it. It's not like it's not repairable, but we don't want to be damaging other people's paint and spending money on that and then upsetting them. Just want to make sure our cutting is on point and we're being very gentle, taking our time. So, the entire door has been trimmed. In one piece. Now we have to post heat. So I like to start on this side so we don't forget about it. The fender to door side. Use your glove. It's a heat resistant glove. Really helps a lot. It helps your finger glide along the vinyl also. And run it down first with a little bit of heat, just to get it around that edge initially. Now you might think that I already did this before I cut, but I'm going to do it again and then finish it off with the squeegee. Always being thorough. Same deal with this side. You can probably see a little bit better. I did that. What I'm doing to this side right now, I did to that side right there. Except for this side, we can open the door on this side and tuck the rest in. So now we have a nice clean edge on the inside of the door, which transitions off very, very mildly. And other than cutting out the mirror and the rest of the door handle, that, my friends, is how you install a door panel in chrome or in general using most other films. That should give you a good idea. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is CK Wraps, Christian at CK Wraps, and if you enjoyed it, please follow me. Thanks. Take care.